Hi everyone, welcome to Babbling Irons. So here we are again after yet another thrilling instalment of West Ham under David Moyes, the man who does nothing but win, who wins more than anyone that we could ever hope for, has yet again proven how much of a winner he is with a fantastic 2-0 defeat to Nottingham Forest, a dismal display, lacking backbone, fight, and any kind of tactical changes at all from what we've seen in the recent games. But, what he does, he wins. He wins. And he clearly won over the away crowd in the game with the wonderful chance of you getting sacked in the morning coming from the away end. But anyway, that's enough for the positives. Steve, how did you feel about the game?
I mean, it was just such a disappointment. I've tried to be quite positive in 2024.
Mate, you have, and I've in the group chats, like our little WhatsApp, I've been the most maybe negative, shall we say, and maybe asking for a bit more realism some of our conversations. However, you and Frank have been far more positive, and I'm pretty sure that positivity isn't necessarily going to be as forthcoming.
No, I've tried to sort of not stick up for Moyes because I think even if you look at the situation with the ownership and just how shambolic it is off the pitch, if you've got staff, you back them, and you should be making sure that in the January window, we went into that window in a really good place. With a huge chance to progress forward with a bit of a plan and recruitment strategy. And it just felt like absolutely nothing was planned. People are going to blame Steiten for that. But, when every single member of your recruitment team wants one player and you can't get it done, then that comes down to someone else. Now, I'm not gonna say Moyes is completely blame free, because he's not. The thing with our recent performances are that our defenders have been absolutely atrocious, and yet there's no repercussion for any of them at the moment. I mean, Emerson aside, because Emerson was the only bright spark today on that left hand side. He carried the ball well and he linked up with others, and he actually he in the first half, even though Kudus was kind of anonymous because they managed to defend against him quite well, Emerson was by far the brightest spark that we had in terms of the defence. So I think you have to look at the fact that Zuma and Aguerd have consistently made errors. Zuma's knees are not working. Like it's pretty safe to say that
they're arthritic and
they have one brain between them, and they seem to just share it at times. And you look at the goal, and that's a perfect example of it. Zuma kind of reacts late, and Aguerd just isn't anywhere near his man. Zuma doesn't try and cut out the pass or cut out the ball, get his head on the end of it. He just kind of does nothing, and Aguerd just kind of goes, "Oh, there's Awonyi. Oh, that's good," and then they just kind of scramble about.
No, the field's too deep. It's right in the box. It's, no one's looked around to see, well, are there any advancing players from Forest? They're all standing waiting on the edge of the box for it to be knocked out, and then rushed out and then did nothing with it. We just kind of
go back to my original point. There's no repercussions for any of the performances at the moment, and that's what's really frustrating. Because Zuma and Aguerd should not be starting for West Ham at the moment. That is abundantly clear. And how you can lose 6-0 to a team who, I think we're all kind of hiding behind the fact that Arsenal are a good side and they were very tidy on the ball, when in reality, 6-0 really flattered them. It really flattered them. And it was like a Sunday league team.
Only lost by 5.
Yeah, but
and they're bottom of the table and arguably have a worse defence than us.
And look, we concede goals for fun at the moment. Yet the only mainstay there is the centre backs. There's no repercussions for their performances. So why is that
been a recurring theme throughout the entire time with Moyes? We've seen players massively underperform, and yet they're in. Like, sort of Cresswell for years, underperformed. Ben Johnson was performing. Ben Johnson gets dropped for Cresswell. He then went to the right side when Soufal weren't performing. He was performing.
This is a massive particularly I think in terms of management in this country. There is a certain age of manager, and you look at Southgate picking Maguire for the England squads, and even potentially picking Henderson for an England squad.
Well, Phillips hasn't played for 2 years.
Where's the fairness? Because Mavropanos and even Ogbonna, someone who I've been very vocal about not giving a new contract. I don't think we should as this year, because we should be looking to progress forward. But when he's played, he has played well at times. The game against Arsenal, he was a rock at the back, and yet he hasn't featured regularly since. So why is that? I think Moyes is putting far too much trust in players who are not performing, because he deems that he trusts them, as opposed to actually, they're making consistent mistakes and costing the side, just like with Phillips, who also seems to be part of the brains trust, where they share a brain between them. There's one brain between three of them, and they just can't make rational decisions, because when you are on 100 grand a week and your mindset is, I'm going to push this player over. Zuma did it against Origi, and Aguerd was trying to do it at times as well. When your mindset is, I'm going to push these players, what do you expect to happen? The referee was useless today, and I'm not going to make excuses for West Ham, because I've tried to do that enough this season, and I think a refereeing performance is only so much of what you can hide behind. The Sheffield United game, we were denied 2 very clear penalties, and we were also basically denied. They should have had a goal ruled out. So you can hide behind it there, because you can kind of take away some of the impact of the result. You can take away their goal from that. But today, absolutely no reason to stand behind the referee. I thought it was abysmal, but he didn't make any sort of decisions that changed the match that were that were just flat out wrong. There's a push on Kudus, but aside from that, do I think we'd have got anything from a free kick? No, because just as typical West Ham fashion, we have the best set piece taker in the world at the moment, and we can't utilize set pieces. So I don't think anything other than the manager is to blame for today's result. It was a really turgid performance, and for him to say that it was a tight contest, what part of that made you think we were level pegging them? Because at no point did I think, actually, we're going to nick something here, we're going to get something. I think Bowen looked really rusty in his decision making. There's a bit in the second half when he decides to shoot, and Kudus is clear on the right hand side of him. He decides to shoot. Now look, he's a confidence player, but make the best decision. And
I find Bowen does snatch at things. When he's out of form, he starts snatching and starts taking opportunities that he shouldn't do, making those decisions.
Fair enough, but I just think that attack today, I felt, that's a fairly decent attack. That is the kind of thing that we should be,
we should be honest. Start of the season, that's what people wanted as our front three.
That's what we should be. That's what we should be winning with. However, just there is a real issue with the lack of creativity and just, I think, ability on the ball, but also the decision making, and I think that is what's unforgivable, because you get Phillips sent off. On the previous video, I was very complimentary about the fact that he's had a tough time, and I don't want to go into the impact of the comments that Pep Guardiola made. But it's very clear that he is not fit. He is paid a huge amount of money every single week, and if you're a professional footballer and you cannot get yourself fit, there are major issues and red flags that should be coming up for any coaching staff. Now, as soon as he came into the club, given that he's had about 6 weeks here, what we should have done is gone, right, you need to get on an intensive training regime. You're going to do you're going to do the work with the team, and you're going to train with the ball. Then you're going to come straight into the gym, and we are going to get you absolutely shredded, because nobody can tell me that 6 weeks wouldn't make a difference to a man's fitness. It's, there's all these 6-week training goals. So I'm not just bullshitting. This is the issue with a player who we have brought into the club with a mindset problem. If he is overweight and he is unfit, as we can clearly see, why isn't he doing more to fix that? But also, why isn't the club on his case and just saying, you need to get to match fitness, and if you don't, there's going to be ramifications.
I also the thing that frustrates me the most, and I said it a lot in the summer about Phillips. Why do you want to sign a player to replace Declan Rice, who, one, doesn't play as Declan Rice has done for West Ham, and a player that, I think when we were talking about Declan Rice, so there's 2 seasons, made over 4,000 minutes worth of football. Phillips had made about 1,500 minutes. That is the difference between the two in terms of the minutes. So one's not playing, he's turned up, he doesn't have the hunger to play. Also, you've got a player that is so entrenched into possession football. He has been under Bielsa for, 3-4 years he was with Bielsa, even under March. Then obviously with Pep Guardiola, you've got a player who has been used to having the ball and playing with the ball to all of a sudden come into a system where he's expected to play without the ball and to run, to chase, to make those hard yards and that hard graft. And it's just so wrong on so many levels. Well, we said it so many times. Our midfield is incredibly unbalanced because we have no player who can take the ball on the half turn and bring the ball forward. Take the ball with their back to goal, soak up some pressure and roll a player and bring the ball forward. We don't have that. It's completely unbalanced. We have no one who can get in front of the ball and to receive the ball in the pocket and then to start playing them. We do have that one player, but he's playing out on the sodding left wing, and at the moment he's injured. So, again, unbalanced. We're not going to even try and change that balance. Paqueta will go back to the left-hand side because he brings the best out of Emerson. And again, it's just so infuriating just watching this team at the moment, because I've said it before. West Ham are not, and if you look at statistically, are not a good team. Statistically shows we are not a good team this year. We've got results, and people have taken those results as an indication that we're a good team. Truth is, we're not. Statistically, it's proven we are a bad football team, and we are a bad football team across other teams in Europe. We've got results, and that's disguised it. And the problem is that old adage and that old thing that kind of perpetuates of good teams find a way to win. And because we found a way to win, it has started to convince people we are a good team. We are not. This year has proven we concede the most shots. I think even you said it. Sheffield United have conceded, probably the only club who's conceded more shots than us in the entire league. We're a team that's maybe pushing for Europe. Literally, next week we could be 11th. We've gone from being in a really solid place in 6th, pushing 5th, and even potentially having flirtation with 4th because of the way Villa's form was going. And in a matter of weeks, gone from that to potentially being 11th. And I'm meant to believe that we are a good team, or people say that we're a good team, or remember Prague. I do remember Prague. It was great. The match was freaking awful. But we won the game. But it's convinced people we're a good team because we found a way to win. But we're a bad football team. We can't play football.
I don't know about that, mate. I don't know I don't know about that. I think
we can't pass 5 yards. We can't pass 5 yards. We can't create.
Yeah, I think you're. I don't know. I think that's a bit harsh. I think we do have very, very strong elements to the team, but we have players who massively let it down. And
no, the constituent parts of our team are good. Put them on the pitch in the current tactics, we're not a good team. We found ways to win, and we have moments where we play some good stuff, but it's fleeting. It's constantly fleeting moments. Like we had a great period in December, but prior to that, we were already talking about maybe Moyes is on his way out. We're not playing great, and it looks like we could be on his way out. He had a great run in December, and now we're back to the same conversation again. It's the football that we saw last year, where again we were talking about he needs to go. but the Europa League, or sorry, Europa Conference saved him. So we're having the same conversations, but we're just every now and then we're just dropping in some good performances and kind of going, okay, well maybe we just give him a little bit longer. And but we could keep over the last 2 years, or 2 years really, if we consider the drop off from the Europa League season in the league, and then last season and up to now. We've been having the same conversations about our way of football and lack of intensity and so on and so forth. And it's just, we constantly keep coming back to it. But because we've got results, and I've said it as well, when you're getting results, it's hard to criticise what West Ham do, because it's getting results. And that's the main thing in football, is getting results. However, that has masked myriad of problems at West Ham. Some are above and beyond David Moyes, and he can't control that. However, it has masked so many problems, and we're starting to see since the turn of the year, those problems resurface. And the surface.
I think it's you are kind of right there, but I think there's also an element of disingenuous, disingenuous mottos. It's hard to criticize when you're, when the results are good. It's not. It's difficult for people to not react when results are going your way. And you only have to look at some of the reactions and comments on Twitter when you even say, oh, we should have gone for this player because we know we needed a striker, and you just get constant abuse.
Well, yeah, to be fair, me and you've done that constantly, right? For the past 2 years, we've been consistent.
What I'm saying, Mike, is that the fact is that you can criticise even when someone's playing really well. You can, the side is playing really well. You can go, well, look, I think there are flaws in Zuma's game, issues with his fitness, issues with his knees. You can critique elements of it, and you can do that. But people just have to be, just look at it objectively. And that's what I think a lot of football fans have, or some football fans, I don't want to generalize, some football fans have real difficulty doing, because, I watched that game, and I was, my day, it was in the bin pretty much. I watched that and I thought, what the bloody hell, I've wasted my time. Same as last weekend when, I had a 7 a.m. till 9:30 p.m. shift the day after that result. One of the patients is an Arsenal fan, and I just thought, Jesus Christ, I've spent money to get up here to watch this game of football, and I've got to work tomorrow, and I've come up here to see us play like that. Now, look, I'm not saying that means that my feelings are valid, because it doesn't. However, when you watch a game of football and you can objectively criticize all the elements of it and say, well, that was good, that was bad, that was good, and you can be fair about it. Nothing I watched today, apart from maybe a couple of things that Emerson did, some of the runs that Kudus was making on that right-hand side as opposed to the first half, I don't think any of it was good. I think Phillips was, Phillips was all right for the first sort of 50 minutes. He looked pretty tidy, but Alvarez, we were speaking about, we need a player to turn on the ball and carry it. Alvarez was doing that at times. Second half, Aguerd was doing that at times. And you think, we're in serious trouble if the player that we're relying on to turn and run with the ball are two players who shouldn't really be doing that in the system that Moyes plays. So it's incredibly frustrating when you're relying on players without a brain who either aren't sticking to the tactics or they're seeing the result go against them and then they're lashing out. We picked up stupid yellow cards. Again, the referee's fault, but also the players have to take accountability for that. And Phillips picked up a really stupid first yellow card, a completely brain dead moment. How he doesn't think he's going to get a booking for pushing a player right in front of the referee is beyond me. People can make excuses for him and say, oh, he was holding on to the ball. It doesn't matter. He raised his hands to an opponent. He's pushed him. It's a yellow card offence. You're a grown man. Grow up. It's pathetic. And then he goes in with a high foot a few minutes after he's been cautioned. Look, I don't think it was a yellow card. However, it's a high foot. It's potentially dangerous. Morgan Gibbs-White goes down like he's been shot, which of course he's going to do because he's just been booked and he's gone in and made a completely brain dead challenge. So we have players at the club who their decision making is not up to the task. And we have players at the club whose fitness is not up to the task. You look across the squad and you see Zuma and Phillips are a major, major problem in that area.
That's a massive, again, that's on the players, and outright we have to criticise players because certain players have been absolutely pathetic recently and have shown a level of professionalism that, quite frankly, isn't professional, to be making the mistakes that they are and to, again, not to be fit. However, again, that's also on the manager and his coaching staff to ensure that these players are at a proper level. And if they're not at that level, why are they playing? And I know some people go, well, the alternative is we don't have any alternatives. Again, it's like, but again, whose fault is that? That is the fault of the recruitment team, the manager, and the board. So as much as when we lose these games, we win these games as a collective, we lose these games as a collective. Yes, Moyes is always going to be at the forefront when it comes to the games, whether we win or lose, because that's the role of a manager. I'm sorry, but whether you like it or not, that's always going to happen. The manager is going to be the first person people look at, and then the player.
But the only way you can improve as a collective is if people analyse the collective and say, actually, this bit needs to work and improve. And when you look at the collective West Ham organisation, the structure at West Ham United, you look at the fact that people are criticising Stuyton. Well, look, if he's identified targets and he's taken them all to Sullivan, and Sullivan cannot get the deal done, that's on Sullivan. So Stuyton's not just going, oh, actually, you know what, I'm going to pick Jota because that's a really hard deal to get done. And I don't care about the tax issues. I want Jota. That's not what happened. If you're telling me that you're giving Tim Stuyton a 30 or 40 million pound budget for the January window, and he's going, I'm going to try and get this player from Saudi Arabia who's really difficult, and he's going to leave it that late, you're wrong. You're deluded, because that is not what he's going to do. It's not what anyone with a working brain is going to do, because if you think moving early in the January transfer window can help impact results for the rest of the month, why would you leave it so late? It's nonsense. And we've seen the impact on the squad, but now we're seeing the manager basically humming and hawing because he's thinking, I'm in a tricky spot here. Do I go with tried and tested, or do I drop players because they're out of form? And he's, his arsenal's puckering because he's going, I'm going to stick with Zuma and Aguerd. When Aguerd can't header a ball to save his life, he can barely make a decision, and Zuma doesn't have a knee to stand on. He literally just has peg legs. So it's terrible. But you need to look at the fact that he's not making changes as well, and the problems that means.
And that just shows a bit of that shows weakness for me. A man who is petrified to make a decision, whether at this point in time, if he brings in Mavropanos and Ogbonna, and we lose a game, what's the difference in playing Aguerd and Zuma and losing a game? There is no difference. But if they play it as a partnership and they don't make a mistake and we lose because it was a legitimate good goal and good piece of play, you go, that's not on the manager, that's not on the players, that is just football. At the moment, you're looking at it going, well, the manager has selected those players. As you say, these players are not fit, these players are not performing. The manager is still selecting them. I can't abide this conversation that we often see is that, this is not a Moyes team. Today, only one of those players who started, Moyes did not sign. This is a Moyes team. These are Moyes teams that come.
I don't know about that. I think it's a very thin squad, and we have the second oldest squad in the league. We don't have the quality.
It's the same as Everton. He had the oldest squad at Everton. He had a thin, small squad at Everton.
But we know for a fact that that Moyes has wanted a striker for multiple seasons now. Even just look at someone like Solanke. He's scoring for fun at the moment. We know that Moyes wanted Solanke in the summer, and we know we sold Scamacca. So money was there, and it was something that if your owner says to your manager, who do you want? And again, it comes back to getting a deal done. We know he had a silly price tag on him, but he has to have alternatives then. So why isn't Sullivan going, look, if I can't get that done, I want a list. Who do you want? That's how a good football club should be run. That's how it should work. But no, we're relying on Danny Ings and Antonio. It's ridiculous that if any side wants to push for the top six, people talk about this £500 million net spend. Okay, that is so easy to misdirect. You can misdirect people so easily with that, because we are wasting money on so many areas, but also it ignores the revenue that we generate. And it also ignores the fact that we have this aging squad. We're not really investing in the future, and we're constantly relying on the fact that we can sell players.
But we can only sell them badly.
So it's absolute nonsense to suggest that the club is in any way run to a standard fitting of a European competitive side. And again, this is not a Moyes team, because if it was, we would be seeing additions into it. This is a team cut to the very bare bones of what Moyes wants.
He has sanctioned some of this bare, but not all of it. But he has also sanctioned the bare bones element of it.
If you've got an inept little goblin in charge of your club going, do you want Cornet? And you're thinking, who the hell else can I get? Because he couldn't bloody sign a signature for a postal package. He couldn't do that, let alone manage a deal for a fucking £30 million player. What is he doing?
Rassi was there in our hands. We just had to sign the release, had to do the release clause, and we refused to do it. And there was also hesitation from Moyes again on that one, because and this is the problem with these hesitations. There's no clear right. We're going into January. This is the list. We're constantly defining the list midway through. Granted, in every transfer window, that list should be quite fluid, because targets change, because of players are not available, a player don't fancy a move. That's natural for a list to be fluid and for it to change, but not to have a list clearly set and going, these are the players we're going for. And as of the 1st of January, going bang, 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 right, let's get these deals done. Yeah. Especially when your squad is so small anyway, just talks up to us to how there is a lack of intent, a lack of direction, and there's too many sodding cooks. Let's face it, our transfer committee is built up of Stuyton, Noble, Moyes, David Sullivan, and even Newman has an interest in it as well. Now, I don't mind Noble, Newman, and Stuyton having an interest. However, as a free, I am sure they have conversations beforehand where they then go, this is the list that we should look at. And then with Stuyton then taking the lead, because he is the boss of that group. The manager should always have a say. However, it shouldn't then be constantly being seen vetoes or indecision. It's tell us the ones you want and we see if we can get them. If we can't get them, this is the alternative list we're going to go for. And there's no point you rejecting them, because we can't get the ones that you want. So therefore, we're going to get these players and you need to coach them. And then as you say, we've got the Goblin who then just goes, oh, lads, did anyone... It's like the guy goes to get around at the bar and then just goes, oh, you know what? I've left my wallet in the car. Do you mind getting this? And I'll get the next round. And before you know it, the last orders are gone, and he's gone, oh, sorry, lads, I didn't get a round in, did I, tonight? Next time. That's what it's like. And then it comes to the summer and it's like, yeah, here you go, lads. Hey, daddy's back. He's getting you some beers in. And it's like, that's what it feels like. And it's just so frustrating that this cycle happens all the time. And it's always when we're in a position where we can move on, the money seems to go missing.
The problem is it bleeds onto the pitch. And this is why we're discussing this part of it so much, is because it bleeds onto the pitch. Yeah. And you see it directly. This new year, we have been absolutely awful. And there is no excuse other than the January transfer window.
One goal in open play and no winning 8.
Yeah, there were no excuses other than the fact that there was no January additions, and Moyes' decision making has been directly impacted by that. Yeah. You can't make any other excuses, because it's turgid football, and that's why we're not really talking about the Nottingham Forest game. That's why we're having a rant about everything else, because the game today was so poor that really there's nothing to talk about. Mikel Antonio, again, part of the brains trust. He's running directly on goal, and he seems to just run at the centre back instead of hitting it with his left foot and having a strike on goal. He runs straight into the centre back.
And I agreed with him slowing his pace down, because you see it all the time. You slow yourself down, compose yourself, or you slow yourself down to then shift, put a little burst of pace, and then you hit it. But he just ran into the defender. It's like, no, you go slightly to the side, give yourself an angle and shoot across the goalkeeper. Why are you running in?
At least work the keeper. And he had it on his left. Like, he could have easily hit with his left foot.
We've seen him so many times.
I know that's not his favourite. We know he's terrible in one-on-one situations, but work the keeper. Don't just run into the centre back. We had chances today that were made from mostly errors, to be honest, but we didn't capitalise on them because the decision making was terrible. And I watched the first half, and all I can really think of, apart from that Antonio miss, is just how bad our set pieces are. We kept passing it short. What good is that doing when we're one of the biggest teams in the league and we have one of the best set piece takers in the world? Why are we consistently passing it short from our set pieces? Why is James Ward-Prowse not lobbing it into the box? Now, that's come from somewhere, because there's no way that he's thinking, I'm just going to pass this short. It's
not that stupid short pass. It's the one that we used to do with Snodgrass. Just whip it into the front post with nothing but pace, and a flick might then turn it into a goal. And it's just that same aspect again. But you know what? Look, there's been loads of comments. So I want to try and drop into some of the comments as well. First comment straight away. Moyes out right now. Not another 4 games. He can beat Burnley
right
with now. Hang on. We'll get into these. Watching the Chelsea, and there are 5 to 6 players that Moyes has rejected. I'm not overly sure Mr. Moyes is the manager for us anymore, fellas. His tactics and methods I removed our joyless, and I'm sorry that we're coming to this world with ambivalence. Again, ambivalence, I think, is a cracking piece. I am very, very much there. Cyclops did Moyes team for Zuma's medical. At the moment, I don't think you've seen the 2 knees. We'll go into Moyes' comments after this, and then we'll explain, kind of, again, why he maybe said what he said, and give this a bit more context. But, only possible reason for Moyes' post-match comments is he's trying to protect the players. And if he wasn't, then he's lost the plot. I think Savio was a better signing than Phillips. It's getting to that stage. And, if we break it down in terms of his wages, plus how much we're paying in terms of his monthly loan fee, Kevin Phillips, 500 grand a week. It's an appalling deal. So, right.
I think I'd rather have retired Kevin Phillips than Calvin Phillips at the moment. So that's how bad it is. But just going back to that first comment, and if you've got any suggestions, please let me know. Comment who you think David Sullivan could realistically go out and get. And this isn't a defense of Moyes, because I personally, if we had a budget and we had an idea of who we could get, and I trusted that we could go out and get a quality manager, I'd have sacked him after the Sheffield United game, to be honest with you. That's just my opinion, because I think there is so much to capitalise on, and Moyes isn't the man to do that, given that we haven't had that backing. Now, I think there are a lot of good managers out there, but I don't trust David Sullivan to be the man to go out and get that done.
Yeah, we have to go and make a manager available. I keep seeing, some accounts going, well, there's no one available. Of course, there's people available. You have to go and spend to make them available. Unai Emery was not available.
Yeah,
Villa made him available. That's what you do. You target, find a manager, and you go, "That's our man. Let's go make it so." And then you go and make it so. saying they're not available is a cop out. It's basically you saying it's like, well, we'll just stick with him because why not? Let's go for Potter's only a free. Potter, by the way, isn't going to be on a free. He's still he's essentially on gardening leave from Chelsea. He's still getting paid. So whoever comes in is going to have to do basically a payment to kind of release him. And if people go, oh, that's not true. Remember what happened with Pochettino and Tottenham? Reason he couldn't go to PSG and why no one touched him was because he was still essentially on gardening leave. He'd never been sacked. It's effectively gardening leave. And that's what was happening. Someone had to pay, which PSG ended up doing. They came to a settlement with Tottenham so he could then go on and do it. Same will happen with Potter. If people want Potter, we're going to have to pay to release him from essentially the obligation he has to Chelsea in which to make it happen. And I don't want Potter. There are things that I was told about his time at Chelsea and certain methods that really turned me away from the idea of Potter. And I used to be quite a fan of his. And I know I'm laying on Moyes. And you know what? When he does go, I will be more than complimentary of him because of what he's given us in this 4 years. However, I've also said, for me, he is a floor raiser. He's not a ceiling smasher. That's what he is. Some people say, well, he has smashed the ceiling because he won us the Europa League Conference League. In all honesty, we should have won that last year. We had the best team and we had the most money, and the team that was the most money, etc. So arguably, we were the strongest team, and it was between us and Fiorentina and Villarreal. If we're really honest, those were the 3 teams that should have won that tournament, and we did. So he did what he needed to do. But yeah, you've said it today. I think it's now time we make that decision. The problem is Sullivan. Do we trust Sullivan? No. Why should I trust him? He's paid Compo once, and that's for Pellegrini. That's it. And Pellegrini wanted out. So it was an easy one for him to do. I think it cost about 4 to 8 million pounds, I think, when we did that. So he's only ever done it once in his career. Otherwise, he's always looked at managers who are available, as some people would put it. So, he's not going to do it. However, we do have Steiten. And if we go by the article that the Athletic put out, I think it was either today or yesterday, Tim Steiten has now essentially been given more control. Now, that could be because in light of what's happening with the Liverpool rumours, they've gone, you have more. Here's more responsibility. Here's maybe the things that we promised you and didn't quite give you. Have more of that, and you make those decisions, and you come to that conclusion. Now, Moyes is not going to go if Sullivan's left to make the call. It's as simple as that. Sullivan will claim, as he always does, I like to give loyalty to managers and I like to give them time to turn it around. Also, he doesn't like backlash from the press, and he knows that Moyes has a lot of friends. And as we've seen all throughout the last few weeks, the offensive put to West Ham fans of get in your box, know your place. How dare you wish to see maybe a more attractive football? Because you're winning a few games, so you should just be happy. Get back in your place. You shouldn't aspire for more. You shouldn't aspire for what Tottenham have kind of done. And when they got rid of Mourinho and then Conte, got rid of that drab football that club has never really been kind of really liked as a club. It's not within their culture. As much as I hate Spurs, they've never been a culture of wanting these demure, pragmatic managers. They've always wanted to be more aggressive and more open. And they've gone and got Ange, and everyone's loving Ange, and everyone's saying, oh, well done Tottenham for going out and doing that. When West Ham then turn around and go, yeah, but we want a bit of that. We've had these flirtations and dalliances with Europe over the last few years, and we've got close to that piece, and we want to kind of smash through that glass ceiling. And we want to do that with a little bit more panache than what we've got, because we don't see much intent. And because we're asking that, we're then told, careful what you wish for. Don't get back in your box. Don't. How dare you ask for more? You should be kissing the feet of Moyes, and we will when he goes, because it will be, you've given us some fantastic, brilliant memories. However, football is a very much what have you done for me lately environment, and lately he hasn't done very much apart from disappoint. And even his comment that he put out today, after the game. So again, I don't think you can ever please everybody. But I think it will be hard to say that there have been many better times at West Ham, obviously alluding to his time. I think they'll, words the fans, honestly have to say that this is as good a time as there has been at the club regarding winning a trophy and league positions. Maybe there'll be managers who excite more, possibly, but the one who's sitting here wins more. And again, he's talking about winning, but he hasn't won since the new year. It's like, are you deliberately baiting? Are you deliberately trying to front up and push your chest out in which to protect your players? Or do you genuinely believe that no one else comes into West Ham and wins games? And I know that's also what you see on Twitter. You actually see people literally saying, when David Moyes goes, we're never going to be in Europe again. We're not going to win games like we have anymore. And that is a genuine deflection as to one of the reasons why we should get rid of Moyes. And we may go backwards. Like, we may actually have to take a step back with a new manager to then go forward. But there are managers out there. It's a long shot, but like one manager who has been talked about as someone that we've liked or been linked to, and a player that's been talked about to come to Premier League, for instance, is Ruben Amorim, who is at Sporting. Now, he has a 20 million euro buyout clause. Now, let's face it, that's very rich for the blood of David Sullivan. However, he didn't spend any money in January apart from the 500 grand a week we're doing on Phillips. So there's money in the bank. So we shouldn't be sitting there at all saying, well, we don't really have the money to get rid of managers, because Moyes is not going to cost very much to get rid of now. He's in his final, 4 months of his contract. That's not going to be a huge amount. You can maybe keep his staff until you brought in Amorim, and then maybe one or two of them stay. So again, you're not necessarily going to pay all of that compo to all of that staff. So there is money there to spend. However, it's whether he is willing to go into his pocket. It may take one of the other members of the board. It may take Kretinsky to turn around and go, you know what, I'm doing it. I'm going to give you the money. You go and do it. We need to move on from Moyes. We need to bang on. And yeah, let's have a little bit of positivity. Yeah, Sloth's beard is magnificent. So we'll have a little bit of positivity there.
Much appreciated.
You can't we can't keep having this cycle and of Moyes in, Moyes out. And in some ways, a definitive decision has to be made one way or another, so fans can focus on the board, for instance, or just focus on getting behind the team because they know Moyes isn't going. But this constant he's going to have a few games to prove himself. If you think you need to give him a selection of games, then you're already unsure of him. Then why are you sticking by someone that you're already thinking, yeah.
Well, look at what Palace.
Yeah, and fair play to you guys. You guys actually deserved that game. You absolutely deserved it, and we're a good team today. And I would say, we looked tired. I don't even want to say we looked tired. I just would say we just looked uninterested in many aspects. It's just where I am at the moment. I'm just so frustrated, and I can't.
Look at what Palace are doing. Palace are going out and they're potentially getting a Europa League winning manager, and for a club of Palace's stature to go out and do that is a big statement. So, look, we're a bigger club than Palace. That's not meant to antagonise anyone, but we're a bigger club than Palace, and we should have a lot more money behind us in terms of the revenue we've generated. So why aren't we going out and matching that sort of ambition? Yeah. If we're in a real slump of form, and we are, why are we not going out and trying to recruit a top-class manager to make a statement? Because, look, as much as I've made excuses for Moyes at times, I think this start to the new year is unforgivable, particularly when we've mentioned that there are so many things he could do. Not that we're, football manager experts, but just in terms of rotation, in terms of competition, make a change to your centre backs who are hemorrhaging goals. Try and make a positive impact because you are picking the team. But if Palace can go out, have ambitions of a Europa League winning manager, and do what Villa have done, going out and signing a repeated trophy winner. Mm-hmm. Why are we not doing the same? And that is only coming from one place. It's coming from the very top. It's a lack of ambition. It's all this big talk, and then it's just it's all fart and no poo at the end of the day. And it's David Sullivan. It's David Sullivan through and through. It's all fart and no poo.
and like the constant, what kind of, some of the things that frustrate me is, there's no one else out there. We can't attract other managers, and it's even the same with investors. We can't attract investors. Of course we can. Like, but look at the Europa League. We should be good. Sorry, look at what we're doing in Europa League. Look what we did in Europa Conference. That all this, like, mate, you can put as much lipstick on a pig as you want and tell me it's Dua Lipa, but it's not. Like, I said Dua Lipa just for you, Slav. But you know what I mean? It's just, we can keep trying to dress these things up as reasons to keep Moyes. However, there is such a litany of things coming, we're looking at, that's showing that we need change. And let's face it, Tim Starton was brought in. Tim Starton and David Moyes are not of the same school. Moyes is an old school manager, wants old school control. He's had to give stuff up to accommodate Starton, and Starton's not been able to be as in control as he wants, because one, partly Moyes, the other part the Goblin. So if we're going to go in this direction and we want to be a modern club, we want to act more professional, something needs to give. And if the board ain't going to go, which is, that you can't just sack a board, it's how it is. Either Starton and Moyes goes. One of them has to fall on a sword and be like, this is the direction we're going in. Now, if you're asking Starton to take a step back, he will have an offer from Liverpool and he will go. And that's an embarrassment to West Ham. It's a fantastic thing. Some people go, well, that's because he's so well respected. Well, no, maybe that's a bit of a well done for West Ham because of what he did this transfer window, in part. Sorry, just some of the transfer window, not the window just gone. That is a compliment to West Ham that Liverpool have looked at this guy and said, he's done a great job there. Let's go and nab him ourselves. So no, they've gone and nabbed him because of his time at Bayer Leverkusen. They were well aware of him then. They were looking at him last season, So if he goes, that's a finger in the eye to West Ham. And it's an embarrassment because it's just, he's literally turned up and taken one look, had 1 year of the project and went, you lot are not right. Like, I'm going to go somewhere where it's professional and I can move forward. So someone is going to fall on the sword in probably some weeks, but really someone should be falling on the sword tonight. And Sullivan has to put on his big boy pants, followed by his big boy trousers, get on the step, and then look Moyes in the eyes and say, or send Karen Brady, as he tends to do with these things, and say, you're gone. Something, whether it's right or wrong for Moyes to be sacked, it is a question for another day. But the problem is that the club at the moment is just drawing in negativity and it looks devoid of confidence. And as we say, players don't seem to have, they look so drained by everything that something fresh coming in could be a spark to help those players. I was told a story the other day that Danny Ings is not even talking to David Moyes at the moment. Not because, again, it's just like, you've got players on the fringes who are even not talking to Moyes. There's been kind of talks as players who said that they were on the fringes that don't even get talked to by Moyes. They don't really talk to him. They get pulled in and out of the team. So it's like this team cohesion thing is not really there. And when we win,
look, I'm not going to comment on gossip. I don't see the point of it. But what you've got to look at is when you have a unit who just are so far off form, but then there's also no competition and rotation in there to try and get a result, or no change of formation, tactics, style of play, anything like that, then apart from putting a left back as a left winger, it's getting to the point where you have to say, we need a new pair of eyes. We need someone else to come in and do this. And I saw in the chat there was someone asking who would you go for. Well, we've already mentioned Amorim, and I think he's a fantastic manager. He probably ain't going to join us, let's face it. And that would be one of those where Sullivan throws his hands up and go, "We tried." I really like Will Still. I think the meme of him is kind of, it downplays the job he's doing at Reims, and
He's doing a fantastic job there, let's be honest.
Yeah,
it's incredible.
He's doing a fantastic job with next to no budget, and he is relying on a recruitment team around him. Where would that work well at? Potentially West Ham. There's also another manager in League One who's rejected us in the past, and we could go back like a scorned ex-girlfriend and be like, please take us back.
I've got the mask and hat ready for you, Mr. Zorro. Please, please, please.
There are managers out there, and I think all three of those would be great fits, but it's just, do I trust Sullivan to do it? No, I don't. So I think it's a really frustrating situation. And on the back of the start to the year, I think that this is it's quite frankly diabolical club ownership, and he really needs to make a call. He needs to make a call, whether he comes out publicly and says, look, he's got the backing, but something needs to change. There needs to be a change in results. Or does he come out and say, look, Moyes, I'm sorry, thank you for everything. However, January 2024 has been an absolute disaster. February is looking like it's going to be as well. Something needs to change.
No, I completely agree. And let's face it, if something's going to come out from the club, it's going to come out through TalkSport at some point. But I think the fans just need something definitive. It just needs to be either we're sticking with Moyes to the end of the season, come hell or high water, they believe in him. We're going to go ahead with it, and we're going to move forward with that. If that's not the case, and the conversation is, we'll give him, that 4-game cycle like we did with Bilic, then you're already answering your question. Because if you're going, right, we've got 4 games coming up, would have been 5, including this one, you need to win at least 3 of those, then the point is, what's the point? Just go. If you're already setting him up to that, you might as well just bin him off. There's just no point. It's not a sensible structure to put a manager in. Again, you're telling the players that he could be gone in 3 games. But if you perform, and then let's be honest, if those players are not necessarily that interested in performing for him, they're like, well, actually, we tank the next 3 games. We'll play, but we'll kind of not, we'll tank it a little bit. And then the manager's gone. And then if they don't make that decision, the players then going, all right, maybe we have to do another 3 games. And, there was talks last season about players going to the board and saying, we are not happy with playing under the manager. We need a change.
Aguerd was one of them. Aguerd was one of them who was very...
Paqueta and Declan Rice. But it's... what can you do when you've got your players telling you as a board they're not happy with the manager, and your response is, it's like, the problem is, I hate it when players do that. However, it's got to be listened to. You can't have a bunch of staff, half your, employees or your most important employees essentially coming to you and saying that the guy leading us forward isn't getting the best out of us, and we're actually in a working environment we're not particularly happy with in terms of when we're coming in to train, what we're getting set up to do. Yes, we're getting some results, but we don't believe that this is going to be, something for the future. And if you look at statistically, that kind of backs it up. And to just ignore it, it can kind of explain why we're at the stage we're at now. And the worst part is, some of the talk is, well, we'll just wait till Paqueta's back. Yeah, but he's not the magic pill that's going to change things. And if Paqueta does come back and then we start winning, then what is it? We're going to say, oh, that's why we didn't do it, because Moyes didn't have him. But it's like, hang on, but that's one player. I know, again, the conversation will be like, well, what happened with Payet? Granted, Payet was an absolute beast for us. But we have a better team than that team did. We have like Bowen, who's been in electric form. We got Kudus, who's an incredible player. Alvarez, who's a very good player. Emerson, who's been in brilliant form. Areola, who's been in sensational form in recent weeks. We have better players than what we had then. But, the loss of Paqueta shouldn't be so big that we're so bad. And I know some people might point out and say, well, if we'd have won that Sheffield United game, we'd probably be still 6th, I think, on points. And if you also look at Moyes' thing of, 4 or 5 games, I think is what he said, is the aim. I know there was a bit more on there, but the crux was he's aiming for, as a minimum, 4 or 5 additional wins to see us okay. Well, if you look at that in terms of where that would put you from last year, I think that puts you 11th, 10th or 11th in the league. So how we're meant, you've got to try and progress every season, or at least maintain. Now,
can you imagine if you're Kudus and Paqueta and you read that? And so we want 5 more wins. We want 5 more wins.
We've got 14 games to go.
What? Like, it's pathetic.
It's like, oh, well, that's motivation for us, lads. 5 more games and then the manager's happy. But what? It just doesn't. Again, this probably also sums up West Ham, quite frankly, at the moment. The sign outside the stadium, the M, I think, has dropped and it's not been fixed. So it just sums up West Ham. And I think your days are numbered when you have the away crowd, or the away support, starting to sing "You're getting sacked" in the morning, and the Moyes out banners coming back up. Yes, he's not always going to please people. Moyes hasn't always pleased people. We've not always been pleased by Moyes, but we've got results and we've been happy with what we've done because the ends justified the means, and you could kind of accept it to a point. But when it's as it is now, what are you now defending? You're defending essentially the nostalgia for when we were good, that lockdown season when we were absolutely brilliant and we played some brilliant great football, and that was under Moyes, and the football was brilliant. But since then, the season after, we played some good stuff for half a season, did well in Europa League, tailed off in the Premier League, but then since then, our league form has been sporadic at best, and our performances have been nowhere near the level that Moyes had for that year and a half when he year and a half, because it was the half a season after he came back. So that intent that we had, where has it gone? Because we had such great intent. He sent the team out to be explosive in counterattacks. We were defensive, yes, but we had far more intent when we had the ball. Now it's on a par with what we had with Pellegrini when the team had no confidence. We're just sideways, backwards. And when we counter, we probably have one player go up, and then the other players either don't keep up or they just can't keep up because, again, fitness. So we're at a stage where, and I think people have the right to call for Moyes out or to call Moyes in, because you pay your money to go to games. You have the right to vocalise your opinion. And what I find the most frustrating about all of it is everyone assumes they're right. No one's right. We're not right, but it's our opinion, and quite frankly, an opinion can't be wrong because that's your opinion. It's just whether other people agree. Right, obviously, some opinions are completely wrong. But ultimately, that's your opinion. You have your right to that. I mean, it's whether people agree to you or not, as to, whether it's perceived as the prevailing truth or not. And I just look at it now and go, I don't see a space where we can continue with Moyes, because the players don't seem to have any intent in when we play, and that's partly down to the tactics. But I also just don't see I see players that just look disinterested, and I think because we play so much without the ball, and because we play at such a low tempo, I think that's why we also seen so many errors from players, because they are sitting at a point where they're so disengaged. Because they're never really frenetic, they're never really moving. They become disengaged, that they just actually get lulled into a sense of security. And I think the Crystal Palace game at home was the game that epitomised it the most, with Mavropanos's kind of pass. It was in such control, but it was at such a slow pace that it was just a lazy, switched off pass. Because again, the players are playing at such a level where they don't have to be fully engaged and concentrated on the game. And that's why we're making these silly, stupid mistakes. And also, if you're asking these players to defend for so long, it's going to come a point where you're just going to be drained. It's like, I've defended for 40 minutes, and then you just have that one moment and it's gone. But we're seeing far too many brain farts in that defence. But as you said earlier, Sloth, where is the consequence for having a bad game? There isn't one. And that's been a common theme under Moyes. We've seen it constantly. Players have bad games. they don't go. They're not dropped out of the team. You know, Souček dropped out of the team today. Phillips pulled an absolute stinker. Souček is going to come back in. But again, we don't have another centre midfielder, which we should have, to also be in that kind of position. I know people go, but we've got Paqueta. One, he's injured. Two, he's been playing left wing. So it's all good calling out these players, but those players have not been playing in those positions. So it just blows my mind at the moment how some level of excuses are made because of what we've done 2 years ago, because we won the trophy. And these things are things that I will hold dear. However, I'm not going to let them obscure my view on the club as it is now, because you look at Leicester City, Ranieri won in the league. The next season, they didn't do well. They binned him, brought in Rodgers.
That's what we need to do, and I think is what was clear today. And we need to get this out of our system, and whether that's making a major change to the squad or making a major change at the manager, that's what needs to happen.
Yeah, and it seems to happen whenever we need a feel-good factor. The guy comes out, and he was pretty good that time, and when we did get relegated, unfortunately. But I think Sloth's lost his internet. But yeah, it's such a crap time being a West Ham fan at the minute in terms of how we're playing in the last few games, and it's a pain and it's drudgery, and yeah, I agree. Apathy set in, especially at home games. Apathy is definitely there. We are, quite frankly, just not doing our bit as a fan base with, cheering, and I'm part of that. I go to the home games with a season ticket, and apathy is there. The Arsenal game, we conceded one goal. As soon as the second one in, it was just like, oh, well, that's it now. Same today. Conceded the first goal, and Forest did great with their goal that they scored. But then after that, I turned around to the lads and I said, we're not going to score here. It's game over already. And that's at half time. It's just where we are, I think, right now. But yeah, I don't think we can flog the dead horse, really. I think we're pretty clear that Moyes needs to go. The problem is, I don't think Sullivan has the minerals to do that. And I don't think he has the facilities in which to bring in another manager, unless he gives carte blanche to Tim Stuyton, Mark Noble, and says to them to identify the manager we need to bring in, go target them, sell them the dream. This is what we want to achieve next season. This is the budget we want to achieve. Go get them now, and let's try and resurrect our season as it is. And then next season, the players that are going to be staying are going to be comfortable. They're going to know what's going to be happening, and then we can move forward and start attacking that season. The other worry is, I think the result, we're probably going to have to sacrifice one of the big players, maybe Bowen or Paqueta in the summer, in which to fund the next window. I think that was always on the cards. However, if the season continues as it is, I genuinely think we might see two players go, and then that could bring in Kudus into the conversation with the bigger clubs, seeing how well he's done this season and saying we're going to move for one of those as well. So we do need to resurrect our season. We do need to stop this kind of downward spiral. I know it's only kind of 2 defeats. However, it's a worrying trend not to have won a game in the new 2024, and to only have one goal in open play is just depressing. Yeah, I guess on the upside, we all have at least tomorrow off from work in most cases, and we've only got to wait 7 more days to watch West Ham go and do it all again. But yeah. Anyway, everyone, thank you for watching. Thanks for all the comments. It's been really great to see the engagement on there. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Sorry we couldn't be positive too much today, and there wasn't much good to talk about Sorry, 3 defeats. You're right. Yes, it's 3 defeats. Sorry. That's where I am. The apathy is so much there that I'm not even counting them anymore. But yeah, thanks everyone for tuning in. If you have liked this video for one strange reason, maybe please do like, please do share. And yeah, everyone have a pleasant evening. And hopefully we'll see some change soon. If not, then, well, we'll just have to keep trudging along to the end of the season. But yeah, thanks for tuning in, guys, and have a good weekend.